if you can take a look at this worksheet that says Pacing Stories, and then you'll see it says From Fred Stays With Me by Nancy Kofel, illustrated by Trisha Tusa. We're going to take a look at the book and see the decisions that the illustrator made when they got this manuscript in terms of how they wanted to break the story down and how they wanted to paginate. But just take a moment right now and just think about it as a 32-page book. And just kind of mark on your page where you believe, where you can imagine the pages changing from one page to the next. Okay? And we're going to come back in just a moment. When you're done, you can pause it, and then I'm going to share this book with you so you can kind of get a sense of what the illustrator was thinking. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's the book, and I'm just going to read it quickly so you can kind of have a sense of how different authors and illustrators break apart different books. Fred Stays With Me by Nancy Kofelt, illustrated by Trisha Tusa. Sometimes I live with my mom. Sometimes I live with my dad. My dog Fred stays with me. I still go to the same school. I still have the same friends. But in one of my rooms, I have a bunk bed. And in the other room, I have a regular one. Fred sleeps on the floor. When my mom and I have pizza, or when my dad and I eat peanut butter sandwiches, Fred waits for the crumbs. At my mom's, Fred barks at the poodle next door. At my dad's, Fred steals socks. My mom is tired of all the barking. What am I going to do with this dog, she says. My dad is tired of searching for socks. What am I going to do with Fred, he says. Some days my mom drives us to the park. On other days, my dad takes us to the lake. Fred likes to ride in the car. Fred shakes park mud all over the seats of my mom's car. What am I going to do with this dog, my mom says. Fred shakes lake water all over the seat of my dad's pants. My dad says, what am I going to do with Fred? Fred is my friend. We walk together. We talk together. When I'm happy, Fred is too. And when I'm sad, Fred is there. But now there's trouble. My mom is mad. The neighbor's poodle barks at Fred all the time. My dad is mad. Fred has eaten all his socks. Fred can't stay with me, said my mom. Fred can't stay with me, says my dad. Fred doesn't stay with either of you. Fred stays with me. My mom and I come up with a plan. We help Fred make friends with the poodle next door. My dad and I come up with a plan. We buy Fred a new chew toy and make sure all the socks are put away. Sometimes I live with my mom. Sometimes I live with my dad. But Fred stays with me. The end. So it's interesting just to see what a book looks like when it's just text, and then what it looks like when it comes into form, when the illustrators kind of had their chance with it. So I encourage you to kind of think really openly about, once you see your student's manuscript and once they see it, how they want to paginate it. Nighttime Ninja by Barbara DaCosta, illustrated by Ed Young. Okay, we're going to just read that and then we'll kind of take a look at the book. Okay, this is the entire text for this entire 32-page book. Okay, so just think about, how do you do that then? If the text is so minimal, how do you flush that into a 32-page book? So this is Nighttime Ninja, written by Barbara DaCosta, illustrated by Ed Young. The clock struck midnight. Hand over hand, the ninja climbed and clambered. Step by step, he balanced and crept. The house is silent. Everyone was asleep. He crept down the twisting moonlit hallway and knelt in the dark shadows, listening. Wait, Look. He took out his tools and went to work. Suddenly, the lights flashed on. What are you doing? Thundered his mother. Nothing. Hand it over, mister. But I'm not done with my mission yet. Well, how about a getting back into bed mission? Sweet dreams, nighttime ninja. The end. So in this one, you can see that even sentences can be split across pages, and that some pages don't need any text. Sometimes it's just like the visual impact of having a wordless spread that can be the most powerful. Once your student has a draft of their story, it's a good time to start thinking about pagination. What text is going to go on what pages? So I like to print out my manuscript, okay, and then your student can start to think about how long is my book going to be? How many pages is my book going to have? So how many pages do I have for text? Okay, so this is a 12-page book, 12-page example. So now the thing about a picture book is that you don't necessarily have text on every page, because you have your cover. You have the inside cover, which is blank. The first page will be your title page. Okay, so that's also blank. So you don't actually start with your text until page 2. Okay, so for your student to think about how many pages they have for text is necessary. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pages for text, not to be confused with the fact that this is a 12-page book. So there are 11 pages where there can be text. Okay, this is a 12-page book where our page count starts on page 1. Okay, so it's considered a 12-page book, but in all actuality, your student only has 11 pages to put their text. So then what they can do is they can kind of take a look at their manuscript and divide it up. Okay, so just kind of reading through and think about, where do I want to have the scene change? They can almost think about it like a movie scene where do they want to kind of have one thing happen, and then they turn the page and it's a separate scene. So I've gone ahead and paginated this. Okay, I know I have 11 pages to put text on, so I divided it into 11 different sections. Okay, and then I went ahead because my first page of text actually goes not on page 1, because that's my title page, but it goes on page 2. Okay, so your student they may want to just cut this out and glue it on so they have a guide. And the page 3 text goes right here on page 3. Page 4 text goes right here. Page 5 text goes right here. So there are 11 pages of text for a 12-page book, because we take out 1 page for the title page. Okay, and when it comes to thinking about what makes them decide where to put the page breaks, you don't want to have one page that has like 1 sentence and the next page has 12 sentences. Okay, you want to kind of think about, as you're reading the book, what is the flow of the reading? What is the flow of the page turn? How many sentences more or less per page? And of course, you can have a spread that has no words on it at all for kind of a dramatic effect. But you want it to be fairly evenly paced. Okay, just for kind of like reading out loud reading purposes. Okay, so this is a good exercise to do from the beginning, just so that they can kind of start thinking in terms of pages, thinking in terms of like scenes of their book, and thinking in terms of the flow of their book. Once your student has their manuscript complete, more or less complete, and then they have the art basically completed, before they put their final text into the art, have them take a look at it one more time, the text with the art, to see if there is anything that's a little bit redundant, like where they're already saying it in the picture really well, and so maybe it can get taken out of the text, because sometimes we may be attached to some language, or we may be attached to some words, but they're actually not serving the book anymore. So if you could take a moment to just go through this first one. So here's Mother's Day by Lizzie Rockwell. That's what this one's from. Take a look at this text where it starts out with, "One morning, Mom smiled at Evelyn warmly." Read that whole paragraph. take a look at the picture and then try to rewrite it in one or two sentences. See if you can simplify it considerably based on what already exists in the picture. Okay, don't look ahead if you can avoid it. Okay, so we'll start with this one. And we can see that this is a really short text. It says, Eveline, what are you going to do at school today? My mom asked me. I can't tell you, I said. That's a secret. Now, all of those other things that were added into the text, all of those things were already told in the picture. We see the healthy food. We see the warm expression between the mother and the daughter. We see that we have the feeling and the sense of the world that they live in. So we don't need to add it into the text because it already lives in the picture. Okay, once you get to the point where your student basically has their illustrations done and has their story mostly done, have them go back with their text and their picture and see where they can trim a little bit of the text out just for a smoother read and for a more efficient read. Most picture books that are about 32 pages these days that are getting printed are at about 750 words, which is not much. Okay, and the thing is as much as the language is beautiful, leave the beautiful, the elevated language. But if it's not necessary, it's not necessary. Okay, and if it's just extra words for the sake of extra words, you can probably take it out. Okay, and so much of writing, as we all know, is rewriting. So just encourage your students, if it's getting a little crowded, look and see what their picture is already telling them that they don't need to have in the words anymore.